Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Some people have been saying that they've liked some previous YouTube videos or podcasts, however you're watching this, where I'm reading some of my short stories from my forthcoming book, Soloists, and so here are a few more. First one is called A Baseball Game. I was surprised. You want me to go alone to Yankee Stadium? My mom said, I know other parents like to cover their ass and not seem irresponsible, but I know that even though you're just 12, you are responsible. You'll keep your eyes open. You'll be fine. In fact, you'll grow from it. I was embarrassed that, if I'm being honest with you, I was scared to go. What if I get lost? What if someone robs me? What if I feel lonely? But I pictured how amazing it would be. Yankee Stadium? And that I'd be able to tell my friends that I went there alone. When I got off the bus, I just followed the crowd. Left, right, left again, and there it was. The house that Ruth built. Mom offered to give me money so I could get a good seat, but the good seats were like $30. The really good seats were like $200. Besides, I wanted to pay for it myself, so I got a $10 seat. I climbed to the fourth deck, and hearing the cracks of the bat at batting practice and seeing excited kids, tired old people, smells of hot dogs, nachos, beer. People were lined up at the radar gun. How fast can you pitch, the sign said. $3. I did 48 miles an hour, and I thought that was fast until I heard that the pros throw in the 90s. Finally, I reached the opening for Section 433. I had seen it on TV, but in real life, the stadium was the most beautiful, awesome, really, thing I'd ever seen. It was so big. The biggest lawn, the big red dirt ringing a grass diamond that was set there like it was for a painting, not for a game. I was also shocked at how far from home plate Section 433 was. I wouldn't be able to see anything. I was beyond the foul pole and way too high up to catch a ball, even if someone hit a home run. My grandpa had told me that Yankee Stadium had monuments to Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and someone whose name I forget, right on the field, way out near the fence. But they weren't there. I was sad. I thought that was a great way to remember the great ones, right there on the field, and it would have been fun to think about someone maybe hitting the ball all the way out there. The game started, and I could hardly see anything, so a bad idea came to me. There were lots of empty seats right near the field. I know they cost $200 or something, but I figured that if by the third inning no one sat there, I could sit there. So I did, and I was amazed. I could practically smell the players, and of course I could see everything. But it must only have been a minute when a guy in a uniform, kind of mean-looking, towered over me and said, "Ticket, kid." I said I was sorry and crept back out into the hallway. But I couldn't make myself go back to Section 433. I had to try again. I walked a few sections away and to the closest row where an aisle seat was empty, and I slunk down in my seat. But again an usher said, "I need to see your ticket, son." But this time the guy sitting next to me was somebody who had smile wrinkles, and he said to the usher in kind of a kind voice, winking at him, "He's with me. He's my grandson." The usher smirked, then smiled, and walked away. I thanked him. For a while, I just watched the game, very happy, very, very happy. But then he saw me watching him keep score in his program and said, "I'm not so good at this. By any chance, do you know how to keep score?" I couldn't believe it. I do that at home all the time, not just what the batter did, but how many balls and strikes each batter got. I said, "I'd love to." The man gave me his program. He even let me take the program home with me afterwards. But I almost got to take home something else. A foul ball came right toward me. I got up to try to get it, but it bounced around between the seats and a girl got it. But that was okay. It was so exciting to even get close. When the game was over, I thanked the man again and walked back to the bus. On the way, there was a cart with a woman selling Yankee souvenirs, including a packet of small pennants, one for each of the American League teams. It would cost $19 plus $2 tax. I had that with me, but it would be 3 weeks' allowance. But I decided to get it. Back in my room, I hung the pennants and wondered if I'd ever again have such a great day. Anyway, that's short story is called A Baseball Game. The next one is called A grad student. This first part is actually true. A professor, we'll call him Dr. Cheney, invited all the students in the PhD program to his house for a party. There, he invited us to his basement, where a leather S&M swing hung from the ceiling. He said, "That's nothing," and he slid open the sliding door of a triple-wide closet. It was filled with S&M stuff, whips, chains, ball gags. Now I turn to fiction. Well, sort of fiction. It's a composite of real experiences. I couldn't believe it. Admitted to Harvard University's doctoral program in education? I wasn't even that good a student as an undergraduate. I guess it isn't as hard to get into as the public thinks. I didn't stay as happy. The advisor they gave me, Cheney, was studying the relationship between reaction time and intelligence. That was too far from the education career I was interested in, that is, developing programs to close the achievement gap. And the courses discouraged me from that. If you look closely at the data on such programs, from Early Start to Head Start, follow through to Stop Drop, they produced no enduring gains, certainly none that justified the enormous expense of such programs. I was particularly dispirited by one study in which pairs of identical twins were born to a low-income mother who gave up one twin to a middle-class family. As adults, the groups were equally low in achievement and high in crime and drug abuse. And Harvard made us take five five-unit graduate-level statistics classes. I'd never used that stuff. Mahalanobis D-squared? Structural equation modeling? Non-parametric multivariate statistics? Even if my research needed anything like that, I would have long forgotten how to use it and would hire some statistician to do the analysis. When it came time for my dissertation, Cheney pressured me into doing it related to his research. Because I wanted to get done and out of there, and I knew he'd be less likely to torture me, my dissertation would be a non-parametric multivariate analysis of reaction time against four covariates in predicting non-cognitive responses to visual and auditory stimuli. I spoke to the department statistics professor, who said that I could get valid results if I used 100 subjects, but Cheney smiled in a way that only a sadist could. "You're going to get 200. I said, "But the statistics experts said 100 would be fine, and it's only a dissertation, not some super-funded project. Getting 200 would take me an extra year, another year in which I'm earning no money." Cheney chirped, "That's it, chum. Take it or leave it." I left it, opened a laundromat and bookstore near campus, and invited Cheney to the grand opening. So that story is called A Grad Student. The next one is called A Bond Trader. I feel like I'm a stereotype. I wanted to major in music and see if I could make a living with my band, but I didn't have the guts. My mother actually cried when I said I was thinking of majoring in music. So I majored in business, which made both my mom and dad happy. I rationalized that by saying I'd probably get job security plus attract hotter women. After graduation, I had another dilemma. Use my business degree to get into nonprofit management or look for a job on Wall Street. The money was so much better on the street, and I heard that nonprofits move so slowly that you need 3 signatures to blow your nose. So I got a job as a bond trader. It was cool that every few seconds I had to make a decision that could make or lose my client thousands without my having to risk a penny of my own money. And I was right. Girls, I mean women, liked that just at age 25, I was making $125,000 a year. My next big decision was who to marry. I was dating 2 women. One was a sweet social worker. The other was a hot marketing manager. I ended up choosing the marketing manager, mainly because she supported my decision to go for the money, while the social worker always looked sad when I talked about my work. So as I'm writing to you, I'm sitting in the living room of my nice condo, drinking good Chardonnay. That feels good, and to be honest, I'm glad I don't have to deal with the painful problems that my social worker girlfriend told me about. It's just bonds, and when the trading day is over, it's Miller time, or should I say Chardonnay time. On the other hand, every so often, a wisp enters my brain that says, I'm being shallow. Anyway, that's called A Bond Trader. The next one, I think I'll let you know what you're listening to. You're listening to, if you're listening to this a podcast, it's an episode of How to Do Life in which I'm reading short stories. They each take about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read from my forthcoming book called Soloists. And I'm just going to take a break so the announcer can do her thing, and I'll be back in just a moment. I hope you'll stay with me. Thank you for staying with me. This next short story is called A Driver. I can't believe I did that. Lots of people lose their dad, have an overbearing boss, and yes, even are impotent without deliberately crashing their car into a random car in the next lane. But I did. Of course, I'm not defending it, but I want you to understand why I did it. I was driving home from work steaming about how my asshole boss reamed me a new asshole for making a mistake. Yeah, it was a $1,000 mistake. I left out a zero. I typed 300 instead of 3,000. Shit happens. But he said, "One more time, moron, and you're toast." Then I thought about what was coming up, a date with this girl. Last week was the first time we were, intimate, and I couldn't get it up. And now she's making me dinner. The pressure. What happened next should have been no big deal. A guy tailgated me. If I wasn't already so pissed, I would have just moved out of that lane and let him pass. But no, idiot me just slammed on my brakes, hoping he'd rear-end me so I could collect big from his insurance. But he had fast reflexes and didn't hit me. He tailgated me even more, even closer. I got red in the face, shaking actually, and needed to stop driving now. And I know it's fucking nuts. I just steered my car into the car next to me, a little old lady driving a beat-up Nissan. I'm writing to you now from a mental hospital. It's not going to help. It's just what my lawyer got me instead of jail. But the truth is, I swear, after I did that, I knew I would never do that crazy shit again. Really. Okay, so that's called The Driver. The next story is called Planning. It was the perfect backdrop. A floor-to-ceiling window overlooking a pier that juts out into the ocean. Troy, the CEO, with equally perfect hair, like a revival preacher, intoned, "Our wonderful products are not our most important product. Our most important product? Our employees. You." Amanda, director of new product development, thought, "What a crock. Of course our entire product line is worthy of you. Just think about how well-priced our bronze line is, how our silver line perfectly balances price and quality, and our platinum product, best in class." She thought, yeah, with the industry's highest return rate and lowest repurchase rate. As Troy blathered on, Amanda's mind wandered to that pier. She thought, he told me he couldn't swim. After he finishes, I'm going to ask him to join me in watching the sunset from the pier. She glanced down to be sure the right amount of cleavage was showing. "And I am so excited that we are kicking off this strategic planning offsite. I know it'll be awesome." He smiled too broadly and applauded the audience. The audience clapped just enough to stay out of trouble. When the last of the employees who had lined up to suck up to Troy had left, Amanda sashayed up and asked him, "Want to watch the sunset?" He thought, what's this about? She had just hired a lawyer to destroy me. His wiser self would have declined, but he was riding the high of his keynote and so agreed. As they strolled the long pier out near its end, Amanda was getting cold feet, but wanted to do it, so she wound herself up by arguing with him. "I still cannot believe you wouldn't come with me to the abortion." Troy replied, "There was nothing I could have done to help." "That's not the point. Haven't you ever heard of the need for support? After all, you were the fucking father. Guys are clueless." "Stop playing the gender card. Women's way isn't the only way. Support that accomplishes nothing is stupid." "Only a guy could say that. Besides, you're the CEO. There's a power imbalance and you took advantage of it." "You are not my direct report." "That doesn't matter. There still is a power imbalance. And you also prove what a sexist you are when you apologize for not coming to the abortion and I said, put your money where your mouth is since you're so sorry. Since you claim to care so much about your employees, fund on-site childcare. And what'd you say? Some bullshit that funding it would be unfair to the child-free and to the shareholders. Fuck the shareholders." "My position is reasonable and principled rather than irrationally kowtowing to the woke." "Don't call us the woke. That dehumanizes us. We are people who have awakened to the rampant racism, sexism, and homophobia that still plagues our society. My attorney said our smartest play is to tell all to the board and to the media, including that you dared to claim you weren't the father, you piece of shit." "Oh, really? Well, Amanda, you better sit down for this. Long ago, I had a vasectomy, so I couldn't be the father. Want to see? I'll show that to your lawyer and to the board and to the media. A picture is worth 1,000 words." And with that, she pushed him over the pier into the deep, rough water. "No, no, please save me. You know I can't swim." It was one thing for her to imagine him drowning, another to see it. So she dived in, helped him to a stanchion, and they climbed up. And they plodded back to the hotel with a lot to think about. So that story is called Planning. The next story is called A Career Coach. Ironically, it was a success that made me do it. This client used every trick in the book, plus those I would never have suggested, like on his references listing his girlfriend as his boss, and he got the job. I'm embarrassed that I hadn't previously reflected on what a sleaze I've been, packaging inferior clients so they get the job instead of a person who likely would have done a better job. Not only does that deprive a more worthy person of the job, all my efforts have thereby saddled the boss, the coworkers, and the customers with a worse employee than they should have gotten. That client getting the job woke me up, but I'm a little embarrassed to tell you what I did. After hours, using a phony voice, I left a voicemail at the HR department at the nonprofit that hired him and told the truth about him. I felt good about doing it, like a Robin Hood stealing from the unworthy to give to the worthy, so I did it every time I had such a client. And all was fine until one day someone knocked on my door. It was a process server. I opened the envelope, and one of those clients who got fired as a result of my voicemail was suing me. I'm guessing the HR person told him, and he knew it had to be me. Maybe this career coach needs a new career. So that story is called A Career Coach. The next one is called A Physician and a Lawyer. Dr. Anya Singh admitted, "Yes, I called the patient a stupid, irresponsible fat pig." The patient's attorney said, "You didn't call her that, you yelled her that." Dr. Singh and her lawyer, Stu Hoffman, sat on one side of the state licensing board's conference table. On the other, staring at Dr. Singh, were the patient's attorney, a member of the licensing board, and a representative from the state's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau. The board member asked, "Why did you yell or even say that to a patient?" Dr. Singh looked at her lawyer, and he said, "Say the truth." She said, "The truth was that I was frustrated with that patient. He weighs 280 pounds and refuses to stop eating Doritos, nachos, sausage barbecue, and so on, and even to take his blood pressure medication. And he had no-showed for his previous 2 appointments, yet he yelled at me for running 10 minutes late." The DEI person asked, "Would you have treated a white person the same way?" "Absolutely," Dr. Singh blurted. The DEI person looked skeptical. Stu, the lawyer, said, "I invite you to consider that Dr. Singh has excellent performance evaluations from supervisors and patients alike. Just look at her online reviews." The administrator said, "Dr. Singh, you are the professional. That behavior was unprofessional. I will review this case with our committee next week and let you know what we decide to do." And he got up, signaling Dr. Singh and her lawyer to leave. Singh bowed her head, even got a little teary. Stu put his hand on her elbow. She got up and they padded out. As they were walking to their cars, she said, "To be honest, I'm burned out. Not just about non-compliant patients. It's the Medicare and insurance company paperwork and the denials and the limitations on how much we doctors can do." Stu replied, "Now that it's true confessions time, I'm burned out on being a lawyer. Not only has it made me more contentious than I want to be, it's made me overcautious, over-suspicious. Not a good way to live." And Anya and Stu ended up opening a pizza shop. She explained, "No prestige, but I think we do more good for people." And he nodded. Anyway, that story is called A Physician and a Lawyer. I think this is the last, no, 2 more stories. The next one's called Shall I Kill Him? Amid the desert island's swaying palms, parrots, macaws, and toucans. I gotta say it again because I didn't emphasize the right word. Amid the desert island's swaying palms, parrots, macaws, and toucans chirped. The peace was broken by a shriek, so I wandered through the jungle toward it. There, giggling as he strutted away with a bloody machete, was one of the island's few inhabitants. There are probably fewer than 10, yet I'd never seen him before. I edged closer to see a toucan lying on the ground, suffering, his foot chopped off. Quietly I followed the man and saw him do it again to another bird that had stopped to rest. He swaggered on and stopped along a stream and chopped a frog. I was too scared to confront him, but felt compelled to keep following. He walked along the stream, and when it widened into a river, a boy was bending over, fixing a leak in his canoe. The man crept toward the boy, machete raised. What should I do? I also had a machete, although I had never used it on anything but thatch, and the last thing I thought I'd ever do was use it to hurt someone. But the man will probably try to maim or even kill the boy. Or maybe he wouldn't. Or maybe I could reason with the man. Should I try to fight it out with him? Or am I too likely to die or get maimed trying, and then both the boy and I would suffer? I thought of all the people who could have killed Hitler or Putin, for example, their lieutenants who were always by the dictator's side. One shot to the head and millions of people would have been saved from suffering and death. On the other hand, it feels cosmically wrong to kill. So, like those lieutenants, paralyzed by indecisiveness and fear, I just stood there. So anyway, that short story is called Shall I Kill Him? And this last one is called Bandwidth. I was a senior editor at greatgardener.com until I wasn't. I had an epic fight with my colleagues about heirlooms versus hybrids. Ironically, the younger editors were in favor of the heirlooms, perceiving them as more natural. I argued that the latest hybrids, for example hybrid tomatoes, are tastier, more productive, and need less spraying. I lost the battle, big time, and at age 70 could not find another job. I was frantic, feeling I was better than I'd ever been in my life, but aware that given my place on life's conveyor belt, it couldn't last. Not social, disliking travel, and not much of a screen watcher, those weren't options, so I read the novels that I had deferred for years, for example, All the Light We Cannot See. I primped my garden, offered gardening consulting, and even planting, pruning, and weeding to neighbors. I grew marijuana and gave it to neighbors, but didn't want to use it because when I did it back in college, it messed with my memory and my motivation. At night, I wrote a few articles, The Lazy Person's Guide to Orchids, Why the Lowly Marigold Deserves to be America's Flower, and Wormy, a short story about a worm that wormed its way through the center of the earth and ended up in Hawaii's most beautiful garden. But without a significant media outlet, I felt that more writing would be futile, so as the days and nights grew emptier, I decided to try weed again, figuring that it no longer mattered if it messed with my memory and motivation. What do I have to be motivated for? I'm not sure the weed decreased my memory any more than natural aging has, but it reduced my already low motivation so much that, if I'm to be honest with you, I'm high much of the time. And I'm thinking of trying stronger stuff. In any event, I do thank you for watching or listening if you're listening to this on a podcast. I always welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I certainly look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below and share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel, which usually consists of self-help advice, but increasingly I'm focusing on reading little excerpts of my own writing, that of others, and playing the piano. In any event, I do thank you for watching or listening. I like to end all of these with the following, my favorite quotation. It's from Frank A. Clark. We find comfort among those who agree with us, growth among those who don't.